to Bloody Good Horror, covering the best and worst of the horror genre since Halloween 2007. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Bloody Good Horror. My name's Eric, and I'll be your host for this evening, where we will be discussing Open House. It's a movie on Netflix about literal open houses. That's what it is. I am the host here tonight. First up, joining me, wearing his most everyman flannel that he has in his closet, I'm sure. Please welcome Chicago Joe to the house.
Literally 3 other people that I work with were wearing this exact same shirt today.
It's
Joe.
cold in Chicago.
Yeah.
Next up on the show from Indiana, please welcome Casey.
Hello.
And last up, the business manager at bloodygoodhorror.com from Manhattan, New York City. Please welcome John Schnars.
What up?
John Schnars, how many days of beard growth is that on your face?
This is like a solid 8 days. I probably shaved last Sunday.
Shut up.
Yes.
That's like 5 o'clock shadow.
Well, you know, if you felt it, it feels real nice.
Would-
That's
Wait,
the
8
key.
my drapes, Joe. That's why.
I kind of busted Joe's balls last time, and I think he got mad at me when he was growing his beard out, but I actually like it. He didn't give me the chance to say that until he just got mad at me, but
Start screaming, fuck you. No,
How
I
dare you?
I'm in the camp of John. I know I cannot grow one. This is like pure laziness. I
actually,
just
Joe, if I recall, you called me a bald fuck on air.
well, yeah, out of love. I mean,
Yeah. No, I
I
figured.
thought we were spitballing pet names or something.
Oh boy, we're here tonight to talk about not Joe's loathing for me. We're here to talk about Open House, a Netflix movie with a lot of middle-aged ladies showering, and a lot of running sprints. If you like to run sprints, this is the movie for you.
They're not spread. Like, guys, we have so
It's like
many
a
things to talk about
mid-range
this movie.
running thing.
Look, it's a
Well,
mile, right?
He's
That's-
running a mile, but it's the most awkward thing in the world because he's quote unquote training for the mile, but all we see him do is just run 1 mile like once a day, and that's like training.
I don't
It made
know.
me so angry.
I don't know,
Am I wrong that his form is just terrible?
I actually
point.
thought he was not the most awkward like movie runner I've ever seen. You know, like sometimes they're just like you're like have you
Yeah,
thrown
he's
a
no
ball
Tom
before?
Cruise.
Like, you know,
He-
yeah,
He's pretty much training for this mile run the way like kids do when they get new sneakers and think they can run faster. Test
Listen,
it out in the store.
listen, he looked like a beautiful gazelle to me. Okay, Schnars.
yeah.
So, a couple quick things here. First up, your occasional reminder that you can watch a live stream of this show, John, if you wanted to.
And all kinds of pre-show blather.
You could see Schnarz's post-work undershirt.
Yeah.
You could see Joe's half beard. You could see. You could
It's kind of like it's like 44% of a beard.
Casey and
My half beard is sitting in the other room.
Casey. What does half mean? It's only half working. Casey and I
2018,
legitimately just talked about Celebrity Big Brother for the last 40 minutes on the live show, so that was a little bonus.
Yeah.
We were on a little earlier than normal.
I'm
But,
pissed I missed that. Who are you? We don't have to go into
well,
it.
hold-
Who are you guys pulling for?
We'll get back to it, but I want to say quickly. So if you want to see the live stream of the show, check us out at patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror. $3 and up a month gets you the live stream, and then there's other goodies in there too. Wanted to get a little plug in for that. I did want to say, tweet with BGH fans. We had some technical difficulties last night on the stream. That's actually going to go back to the Twitters, so they're not going to be doing the live feed anymore. They found that people seem to dig on the Twitter portion of it more, so they're going to stick with that. That was just a little housekeeping thing. And, yeah. I'm still reading Leviathan Wakes, so there you go. But I'm like 3/4 way through it.
Yeah,
Three quarters. That's fast.
that's pretty good.
It's good. It's a
Eric, are you ignoring your family and reading instead?
no. I'll tell you when I read. I read on my lunch break at work, and
Okay.
I read before bed, and that's pretty much it. And
No,
like,
not bad.
if I think about it when I'm on the pooper, I'll pull up my phone and sync my shit there, and literally.
He has a name.
um, it's very interesting. Like, it's pretty good. It's fun, but it's like it's a lot pulpier than Game of Thrones. Like, it makes me appreciate even more how good of a writer Martin is, because it's like this thing can't help but just feel a little wacky sometimes, or like inconsistent, you know.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's like it's fun.
But is he actively writing now? Can we still call him a writer?
When you wrote the Game of Thrones books, you were always a writer forever.
Or is he more of a
always.
written?
Yeah. Well, what would that?
I'm shaking my head.
What does that make you, Casey? Throwing shade at George R. R. Martin over here. Come on.
Hey, now, I've actually got words down.
I mean, I write a grocery list down every week. You know, avocados when they're in season.
Yeah, well.
That's not true. I'll only buy avocados if they're cheap.
And
Are
also,
avocados, do they go out of season? Like, because I assume
Well,
you're in bought, like they ship them from.
Sometimes they're very expensive. Sometimes it's like, hey, here's an avocado for $3, and I'm like, fuck you. What do you think? What kind of life I'm living over here?
But Joe, when that Boston avocado crop comes in, whoo, Eric is all
we didn't
over
think-
that.
We didn't think we had anything to talk about at the top of the show.
Yeah, no, we're good actually.
Tell us more about when you're writing your grocery list.
What else? What else?
A lot of
Milk?
fresh produce lately. Yep, I get milk for my daughter. She drinks milk.
Mm.
Bananas. I go through like 30 bananas a week.
Oh, kids love bananas.
It's good. You had something you wanted to talk about, John? No, Joe wanted to talk about Big Brother.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
I'm just curious who you guys are pulling.
I'm
for the
team
win.
Shannon Elizabeth all the way.
I'm team Ross Matthews myself, so.
Yeah, I'm Team Ross. I think Shannon. I think is playing a good game, but she's flying way too high. Like,
Flying too close to the sun. I agree. She's a little too chatty about her plans, I think, with people. But
And I think Ross is being clever by writing along with her, knowing that she's going to burn out at some point.
yeah,
Yeah.
Wait, who are so Shannon Elizabeth is the
American
person.
Pie.
American Pie. And by the
Oh,
way,
okay.
there was a tease like last week where they set some segment up with talking about how it was like as warm as apple pie or something, and I'm like,
Oh
do
yeah.
they not remember what happened to the apple pie in that movie, or are they just winking
Did
at
you
me here?
when they were announcing her and they were saying her movies? They did mention what was it like 17 ghosts or whatever
13,
the hell that
13
was.
13
ghosts.
ghosts.
Yeah.
13 ghosts. Yeah.
Oh, woof.
She didn't
With
mention Jack.
Matthew Lillard.
She did not mention Jack Frost though.
Oh no.
John,
that's
listen, she's a saint. She works to to save rhinos from poaching. That's what she
Dig
does.
that.
now.
I'm in for that.
Yeah.
Wait, and who's the other guy?
Ross Matthews, he's been a host on E forever, commentator and stuff.
He used to be on like Jay Leno, right?
I was
Like,
gonna
he
say,
like the-
I'm pretty sure I
Yeah.
know him. Yeah, he was like an intern on Leno, but he was on TV a bunch.
Yeah.
I think he used to be on Chelsea lately a lot.
Go
too,
ahead,
didn't he?
Joe. Tell Schnorrs the rest of the cast. I want to watch Schnorrs' face.
Shannon Elizabeth. Isn't she also in Not Another Teen Movie? Is that
No,
the same person?
no, that's
She is in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
Serena.
Oh yeah, that was the other thing they credited. Who
Serena
was in there?
Vincent.
Brandy Glanville from The Real Housewives. What is it? Meta World Peace, who was hilarious.
Oh yeah.
Chuck
can't,
Liddell
like,
was in there.
There's no way he's gonna make it past like 3 episodes. The dude.
No,
is
he
completely
episode
insane.
2 he was saying that he wanted to go home.
Within the first week.
And a case in point, last night's episode, and Eric saw this part, they had him in the diary room talking about when he voted Chuck Liddell out of the house, and he realized that he didn't understand how voting worked.
He
and
thought-
he was voting for Chuck.
Also, this never made air, but according to Reddit, because they still have live feeds. Like, Schnorrs, I know you
Yeah.
know a little bit about this because we talk about
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
You can
You
still
guys have kept me up. To
you can
speed.
still subscribe to live feeds and watch the house. And he apparently is the first person in Big Brother history to hit the emergency button because he wanted to go home.
Oh,
So
really?
he didn't go home,
Smart guy.
but he did he yanked the big red button or whatever. So
Just having a rough time, you know.
he
Seems like a
misses his
big
wife.
guy.
who else?
Yeah.
Chuck Liddell, the MMA fighter.
Mark
Uh,
McGrath.
Mark
Omarosa.
Mark McGrath, who looks like a real life pumpkin from the David S. Pumpkin skit. A
Do
skeleton.
you think that Trump is watching just to see what Omarosa's up to?
Well,
We know he
Omarosa,
like, loves watching television.
Omarosa's like quite clearly on her like redemption tour because she's trying
Yeah.
to act like she was just along for the ride and she doesn't support him, blah blah blah. And for the
Nice.
second episode, there was a whole 10-minute conversation with her and somebody else about how it's not going to be okay. Like basically, is intimating that he's going to like burn the whole world down.
Yeah, it was with Ross.
Yeah.
Who else is on that? I don't remember the name of the like Broadway gal who won the
Marissa
Tony.
Oh,
something,
I
I don't
reckon. Yeah,
remember
she
last-
was in Hairspray, the movie.
Yeah, you'd recognize her.
And John will like this one because I know he's been waiting. But James from Big Time Rush, I know you were big into them.
Yeah, he's just like there. He's just like some
That's
generic
a
like
band?
he's some generic like Nickelodeon Disney
Boy
kid
band.
actor kind of dude. He's the worst.
And then what's her name from the Cosby Show?
Rudy.
Rudy.
Rudy, yeah.
Alicia
Rudy Hux.
Pulliam something. Keisha Pulliam.
Keisha
Oh,
Knight William.
And the Miss America that what
Looks-
the
It
heck's his
said
name?
from South Carolina. The one
No,
that, like,
Miss Universe.
Miss Universe.
The Miss
that,
Universe that
Steve
was
Harvey misannounced as winning.
Yeah.
Oh.
so she's
Man,
she's
really
really
milking a lot out of
freaky.
that.
She's really freaky because she looks and sounds literally exactly like the woman on Modern Family. What's her name?
Yeah, Sofia Vergara. could be her
Literally, it's like
sister.
her 20 years ago. It's the creepiest thing.
Seems racist.
Seems
I don't know,
Sounds
Joe.
good.
I think
Sounds good to
it's
me. I mean,
entirely
Mildly
accurate.
racist.
So yeah, John, there you go. You feel better now?
I can't wait till this is over and I can go to the internet and just start streaming clips or something. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, it's on like every night
Oh, good.
because it only goes to the 25th of February, so they're having episodes like every other night at this point.
Yeah. I mean, in
You-
fact, we're missing a live eviction tonight because of you, John.
You look at that
I'm
picture
sorry.
and
You know what? Let's wrap it up right now. Let's turn in.
Schnars, look at that
Let's turn in.
picture. Look at that picture. And tell me that's not the same exact person.
You're not wrong.
I didn't even
Yeah.
do that. Someone else had the thought and made that picture and then put it on the
Oh.
internet.
Yeah, it's still racist, but you guys are correct.
Okay.
It's close. It's in the neighborhood.
All right, Joe.
Sir.
Speaking of Big Brother, a lot of drinking going on in that house.
Mm.
There's also usually a lot of drinking happening in your house. I'm to believe.
Happening right now.
Why don't you bring us the beer for this week?
Beer guts.
Love it. Makes me so happy every week. The Open House, the movie that we watched for this week. A heartwarming story about a family ripped apart after the father gets hit by a car on his way to the grocery store to pick up some eggs and milk. But he forgets the milk, and therefore he must die. And in honor of that, I picked a beer from the fine folks over at Left Hand Brewing Company. That's in Longmont, Colorado. I'm assuming that's how I'm pronouncing the town right. Maybe not. Anyway, this is their milk stout, which is delicious. I've done a handful of these before. I think a good amount. The milk stouts I've talked about, and you guys are gonna laugh again, but they usually use like lactose in the brewing process, so they don't actually use like milk or any dairy-based product, but that lactose kind of gives the beer like a creamy feel to it and like a sweetness, which sometimes it's a little too much for me. I'm not big on like the super sweet flavors, but this one is I think just the right amount, and it's balanced with like those roasted malts, so it gives it like a coffee flavor, but it really is like super creamy. So Left Hand does really good stuff. This milk stout is one of their better ones, I think, and I'm a huge fan of it. Comes in at about 6% alcohol, so not super high, and especially on like a cold day like these, you drink like 10 or 12 by shovel in the yard, and you're still good to go.
That
Wait,
sounds
why
like
are you shoveling the yard?
You don't shovel your yard, Jim? How are you gonna show off your grass in the winter?
I was gonna make
but
it.
it acts like a blanket for the grass. It's actually very.
I
good
was
for
gonna
it.
make a different joke, but didn't even catch that you said shoveling the yard, so I'm just gonna refrain.
I actually prefer to stomp the yard.
Damn it! I was just gonna say that. Schnar's on fire tonight.
Boom.
That's I'm proud of that. Where was I? Lefthandbrewing.com is their website, and these guys distribute pretty far throughout the U.S. So those of you in these fine states of America, while they still exist, you should be able to find this one and all the other beers from Left Hand. So go do that and do drinking in your face.
Do drinking. Good advice. All right, guys, let's take a quick break and discuss Open House.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big break in TV. Got the prime time, bitch. Main feature.
It's the open house of doom.
You guys ever notice that like open houses are really weird?
Yeah, man.
Oh
When
my
we did
God.
our we moved out while we were selling our house because I already had to be here for my job, and my wife just moved in with her mom. It was way better that way because then we just staged the house and gave the realtor the key, and we're like, just go ahead. Now you can bring all the creepy people in here you want, and not worry about it.
All the
Well,
murder.
the weird, we don't even need to get into it, but like
We do.
the whole premise, it's like you
That's what we're here
just
for,
give,
John.
you just give your keys to these weird random people, and then it's like you spend I don't know, Eric, what your experience is like. We spent a lot of time, like more time than I wanted to, with our real. It was like getting to know you sessions, and like by the time we were done, we were like, all right, we're good. It's been nice to know you. We'll
Not
see you
that
later."
much. Our realtor was pretty great. She looks and dresses like Phyllis Diller. She's
Oh.
an older
Oh, wow.
lady. Drives like a terrifying maniac.
Yeah.
And she had "Call Me Maybe" was her ringtone, which is maybe my favorite thing about her.
Oh my god!
But she was great, man. Listen, she sold that house just when it needed to be sold. So there you go. She'll forever have my gratitude. So there you go.
There you go.
And then she helped us buy the house, and then I was like, all right, see you later. I'm gonna die in this house. I'm never gonna need a realtor again. And then like every couple of months, she would bring us presents, just like drop off pies to the house and stuff. And then when we needed to sell it, she's like, hey, she gave us a pie. We should go with her.
That's
Dude, they know what they're doing. all right?
She
These guys are
worked.
pros.
She worked me, Schnars.
Our realtor completely blew us off like 6 months after.
Yeah.
Like we went out to eat and everything after, and like she was super nice and like sent us a gift and everything. And she knew some of our friends, so like over the summer, we're like, oh, we're gonna have a barbecue. We should invite her. So we did. Didn't even respond. Just completely shut us
Selling
down.
your house. I mean, listen.
I thought you like walked past her on the street and she didn't acknowledge you or something.
She moved to the other side of the street.
We can talk about this because it's related to the movie, but like selling your house is an oddly personal thing. Like the first time I was buying a house, I remember, you make an offer and then the owners are kind of playing hardball with you and you get mad and you're like, what are these people's problems? Just sell me your fucking house. Then when you're on the other side and you're selling a house and somebody lowballs you, you're like, I will cut a bitch. Like you get so mad because you take it personally, so you don't realize it until you're on the other end of that equation. It's a weirdly personal thing is my point. And then realtors, that's why realtors are important because then they can be the go-between. You don't have to see the people.
Yeah, well, so here's the one thing though that this film then undercuts that whole. Because you're right, the people in this film aren't even living in
Don't
their
give
own
a
house.
shit about the house. I
It's
just
like-
wanted to tell that
it's-
story about my house.
it's
I don't really.
Never even been to.
John Schnorrs.
Yeah. So
I bet
Yes,
your
sir.
realtor knows a lot of words.
she knew her way around some words for sure. She was a talker.
You've never made it sound so sexual.
Well, that was hot. I'm sweating over here.
Oh, she,
Damn,
she's
buddy.
Stuff.
All right, John, please bring us that saucy word of the day. She knew her way around some words, don't you worry.
She knew her way around some words. I'll tell you that much.
Guys, today's word is escrow. That's ESCROW.
I love
Get
escrow.
that in one of them fancy French restaurants.
Yeah, I
right?
love that. A little bit of olive oil and some garlic,
Does it come with the shells on it still?
Escrow is a bond, deed, or other document kept in the custody of a third party, taking effect only when a specified condition has been fulfilled. So most commonly, escrow is the sort of down payment or otherwise sort of part of a payment toward a purchase, like a house, that is going to be held typically by a lawyer, and then transfers hands when all parties have agreed and signed the paperwork and all. It actually comes from you guys will like this. It comes from the 16th century Old French word escrow with an E on it instead of a W, which means scrap or scroll. So I would imagine that
Skrilla.
escargot probably has a similar.
See, I was actually going with
Oh.
escarole. Isn't that like a
Escar-
green or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Isn't that the big fancy Cadillac that all the rappers drive?
No.
Cotton candy is sweet as gold. Let me see your escarole.
John Schnars, tell me
Yes,
about
sir.
Open House. Not like Open Houses. Tell me about Open House, the movie.
Well,
Singular.
so it's the film is well titled because they only needed to hold one open house in this film. I think. Or no, actually, no, there's two.
Two,
Two.
yeah.
They should have called it Open Houses. God damn it.
Open Houses just
yeah.
doesn't have the same ring to it.
That's the sequel,
So-
John.
And then
obviously.
you automatically know nothing happens during the first one, so.
I was gonna say I did a fair bit. I did a little bit of research on this film before. This is a film that was directly released to Netflix January 19th of this year. So it's a new category. It's sort of like instead of video on demand, it's just like straight to Netflix. STN. I don't know. We'll have to think. We'll think on that and come back to
Are
everyone.
you making this up as we go, or is this a real thing?
No, yeah, I'm making it up. No one's calling it that, but I think we should coin the term. So it stars, as we were somewhat discussing, as a high school student whose father is
Hold
hit
on.
and killed.
You
Huh?
blanked out. It stars who?
Dylan Minnette.
Okay,
I
that
believe.
was what I missed.
Yeah, he plays a high school student whose father is hit and killed by a person who has a heart attack while driving, is sort of like what you are led to believe.
You know this kid, any movie that currently needs like a sensitive teenager, this is the kid.
Well, and he has starred. So he starred in 13 Reasons Why, I believe.
Oh,
Which is a
Joe.
direct to Netflix series.
Joe, that was really knowing. Sigh. Oh, okay.
There's really only like 2 or 3 other characters, none of whom are actors anyone would recognize. The film is directed. Actually, yes. Sorry, the rest of you. Written and directed by Matt Angel and Suzanne Coote, Coote. Coote. I don't know. They co-wrote and co-directed it together. For both of them, this is their first feature. The guy Matt Angel had previously written or done a direct-to-TV deal, which I guess this kind of is. And yeah, otherwise he had previously done a bunch of acting. She had previously done a bunch of other random stuff in film, it kind of looks like. But yeah, this is their kind of first thing they've done together. The listed budget, according to IMDb and Wikipedia, they probably are getting it from the same source, $100,000.
Yeah, I'd buy that.
Well, it actually explains a ton.
Yeah. John, tell me what it's about.
Yeah, so the high school student, his mom, the father, it's a 3-person family. The father gets killed in sort of the first opening sequence of the film. They're like really hard up. They're struggling with money. They can't really afford even sort of the place they're currently renting. They live somewhere in like Northern California. It's sort of unclear. And so the sister of the wife, or maybe the sister-in-law, either way, offers to let them stay at their mountain house in the process of selling. So she says, go stay up there, you stay for free. You just have to let in the realtors when we're doing the open houses. They go up to this mountain house. It's sort of like a gorgeous or big mansion-ish. Eric can maybe comment on the size of the TVs. I don't know if we actually see them at any point.
It was a nice
it was
house.
it was a smaller TV though, I would say, right? Like I don't remember.
The grand scheme. I
Not too
guess.
showy.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. If you have a house that big, you're an asshole.
You're facing it, that's for sure.
If you have a house
a
that big,
point.
you're an asshole
Yeah.
regardless of how big the TV is. So
Right. Well, in any event, they're selling it, and there's just like a bunch of weird shit going on in this house. The film, we'll talk about it, I'm sure, but it's sort of a weird mix of home invasion and almost haunted house. Like you are led to, it's unclear sort of what's going on. Things are being moved around. There's like a couple sequences where you sort of see someone in the shadows, but then it's like they're not there. Someone keeps turning off the pilot light so that the hot water keeps going off, which is terrifying. And
you ever
yeah,
take a cold
so-
shower, John?
oh, dude, my gym didn't have hot water for like a month.
It's the pits.
It was outrageous.
I feel like a savage.
Yeah, it's not good. But yeah, so just a bunch of random shit is happening, but nothing that really like rises to the level of kind of fear, or I mean, they're kind of like weirded out. They're also the mother and son are both dealing with sort of depression or certainly some grief issues, and they're not getting along super well. Yeah, I mean, they eventually shit just starts to ratchet up. Someone makes like a very lovely looking dinner table setting for them, which leads them to call the police.
That's when you know shit is on.
Well, and I forgot to mention there's several open houses.
Hmm.
You know, and the realtors are like sort of sketchy.
Yeah.
There's like the one
Everyone, I mean,
or-
everyone in the town is sketchy. You're just not sure
Yeah.
what's going on for a while.
Absolutely, everyone. Yeah.
All right,
so yeah,
I'm satisfied. Joe,
Mhm.
this is movie. What'd you think of this movie?
I mean, John kind of alluded to it, but it's a little scatterbrained, the entire thing. Like, it kind of feels like every scene was just pieced together on the spot. Like, what weird stuff can we have happen now? And they just kind of threw it together. I mean, that being said, I was not a huge fan of it when I finished, but the more we kind of talked about it, and like specifically you, Eric, like the kind of stuff you pointed out, I grew to like this a little more than I did. I can't say that I actually enjoyed it. Like, I think my main problem with it is I'm not sure like what the point is. Like, they're really not breaking any ground here. Like, they're not going into any new territory. It's kind of like, by the numbers for the most part, like a combination of, I think we said like The Strangers and that movie Hush that we watched. So, and there's nothing that really differentiates it between or like from some of those other like, home invasion or, spooky shit going on in the house type movies. So I was kind of left like wondering like what was the point here? Like why even bother making this? So I was a little like blah by the end of it.
Casey?
Watching this movie was a kind of a grand battle with my attention span because the internet. And this movie for me has a pace which does not do it any favors. I had a lot of problems with the pacing. I'm all about a good slow burn movie, but this one it didn't seem to, for me, especially by the time we got to the end. I don't think it had the payoff that a good slow burn movie would definitely or would normally warrant. So yeah, this one just because, and we'll get into a lot of the details and stuff before too. Like they said, it's a little scatterbrained. There's some kooky ideas that they don't follow through here, and pacing just made this a kind of a chore for me to get through.
John?
yeah, I didn't mind watching this, but it's one of those movies that since I finished, which was yesterday, I like the more I think about it, the less I liked it. Like it literally, I mean, Joe is really scene to scene. It is like sort of unclear what this movie is supposed to be about or what they're actually trying to do with it. Even when the movie's over, it's not 100% clear, sort of like what the resolution is. If there is any resolution, I mean, we'll probably get into some spoilers. It's one of these films that it's almost like hard to spoil because like we can tell you what happened and like it would not have any change in the impact of your enjoyment of the film. So I don't know. I would say I more at this point would say I disliked it and maybe even a lot.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that all the criticisms are pretty valid. I was sort of in a unique situation watching this movie, and that I was on a plane, which literally never happens where I'm watching a movie on a plane. Usually, if I was like sitting in my computer watching this, I 100% would have been all up in the internet, like distracting myself, and probably would have had no idea what had happened. But given the situation, I was really kind of just left with like, okay, I guess I'm just here watching this movie and I'm just chilling. So I just really kind of zoned into it. And it's like, there's a couple of things I think it does pretty well. I actually think it does the visual tension pretty well. I think that even though it can feel a little aimless, it's like these scenes where the pilot's getting turned off or things are getting moved around. I felt were pretty well done. Like I felt attention to this movie, and I also enjoyed the fact that all the characters around them in this town that's strange to them were all off and all kind of like red herringy, because then I wanted to kind of unravel it. I guess maybe if that's a thing that bothered me is that doesn't really go anywhere. But for a lot of the movie, it's like they never feel kind of safe because everyone around them is just sketchy as hell. And then the way that those characters kind of morph throughout the movie is interesting. But for me, like, what I really enjoyed is just the relationship with the son and the mother. I felt like their chemistry really clicked with me. And, I've talked a lot like last year about cheap deaths in horror movies, like cheap deaths used for sympathy. But instead here you have a death where the whole movie is then about kind of exploring their grief. I mean, it doesn't again doesn't really go anywhere, which we can get to. But it's like the I don't know. I really felt like they realize that they only have each other, but there's also a lot of tension between them, and that stuff kind of boils over at some point. It just read and felt very genuine to me, and I was actually pretty invested emotionally in the way that they were dealing with their grief. Like, and it does, I think, make you sympathize a lot with their characters. So by the end, when shit goes down, like it's pretty crazy. It's also very brutal, like out of nowhere, which we can talk about. Like when shit ramps up, it's like literally all of a sudden you're watching a different movie, and that speaks that speaks, I think, to part of its issue is that it's got a little bit of an identity crisis, and I think that some of the lines, like the line about open houses, is so crammed in. I guarantee you that was put in there by somebody who didn't write the original script, because it just feels like so put on. The kid just turns and the camera's right on him, and he's like, aren't open houses weird? It's like you give people, like, it's so, it feels so out of sync with the rest of the movie. So, but finding out it was shot for $100,000, I think really puts this thing into perspective and kind of makes me even like it a little more, because it's like they're doing interesting things without any, assets.
What do you think they did with the other 90,000?
Can I give you one tidbit about the? So let me actually respond really quickly, and then I'll give you a tidbit that I just found while doing a little more research on Wikipedia about this movie. I don't even disagree with everything you said. Like, to your point about sort of the way specific shots are framed, it was like competent. Like they had clearly seen a lot of horror movies, or at least studied horror movies.
It's not amazing.
That on the box cover.
It's not amazing. It's not amazing, but I think they're doing well with simple setups.
Yeah, totally. And so I agree with you. There's an element of the script. I actually think you're right too on the script. Like, not just that line. The whole script feels like it has just been like there. It feels like it was like 3 times as long, and then they brought in a screenwriter who was like, all right, like let me see if I can.
Well, the entire open house thing, the whole open house thing, like, isn't necessary. You don't have to call this movie Open House. No. You don't have to be so.
None of the other characters are necessary ultimately.
You don't have to be so on the nose about open houses. It's like that. I guess I get it for packaging and marketing the thing.
That's how the person got into the house, Eric. It's the only way they would have gotten in.
I mean, like John brings up, and I agree. Like, I don't disagree with anything you're saying, Eric. But at a certain point, like every character introduced has something weird going on, so you suspect that they could be doing it. Like to the point where there's like the next door neighbor whose husband may or may not be dead. So you're like, all right, well maybe this is the husband breaking in. Then they introduce like the realtor, and her assistant is this creepy guy. It's like, all right, well maybe it's him. It's like every scene is just like, just give me someone on this screen like who potentially is not breaking into their home.
I see, but I liked that, because then that, like I said, like that creates a constant tension, because everyone around them is friggin' weird and unsettling. I mean, if I have a problem with it, it's that none of it pays off, I guess.
Yeah, none of it
with the exception, I think, of the store clerk guy, because
the shop owner,
because at least you finally know where he's coming from for certain, and then you get, a pretty clear end for that guy. But it's like,
Wait,
the neighbor.
Do you mean just that he wanted to get with the mom?
Yeah.
But you eventually, because what I started to think was that maybe there is some kind of like conspiracy going on, or a cult thing where all these people in this town are brainwashed or something, because they're all weird. But you do find out eventually that, oh no, he's just a dude. Like, you know what I mean? You at least ascertain his lack of motive at some point.
No, like to your point, I was waiting for there to be some bigger thing going on, because there's a bunch of wacky shit that's going on all like throughout this, including the neighbor who, I mean, is it like senile or whatever, has Alzheimer's. I don't know. Is senile like not an appropriate thing to say? I actually don't know.
I have no idea.
She's got issues.
What do you mean, you people?
She's just wandering around, and like it just has no bearing on the film whatsoever. Like other than like she's a person that they can talk to every once in a while, and someone makes it awkward. I don't know.
And I don't think this is really giving it away, but there's one point where the kid is outside like trying to get away from everything.
Yeah, he's hiding.
And like literally the old lady just kind of like wanders by. Like it was almost
It
like
was
comical.
ridiculous.
I actually think
Yeah.
there are some good scares with her though, and I really like
Oh,
the whole idea of somebody pulling their car up to my house in the middle of the night and shining their lights in my house. I find completely fucking terrifying, just like in a reality level. So I found those scenes like early on to be pretty.
Oh, it
pretty
was.
effective.
I thought that was really scary. But like the first time it happens, I'm still not sure why it happened because
Right.
you hear the honking and the lights are going, but then all of a sudden the next door neighbor is just like wandering around the front yard.
Yeah. No, I think it was just her being senile or whatever. I think you can say that's nurse. I'm gonna vote yes.
Okay, cool. No, but really quick. So Matt Angel, the director, it turns out that this film is produced by one Dan Angel, his father.
Okay.
So who is like himself, I wouldn't say a famous Hollywood person. He's done a bunch of like TV shows and stuff.
He has those magic shows in Vegas as well.
I wish my father would would fund my vanity film projects.
But yeah, it's actually produced by Dan, Matt Angel, and then Suzanne. So
Okay.
good
Are
time.
there any relations to Chris?
Oh,
No,
Casey,
I mean,
come on! I
maybe.
just made that joke.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I honestly think like I like this kid a lot. He's a little mouth breathy, and it's like he definitely gets typecast at this point in his life. But I think that the acting in this movie, given the material that they have, is actually pretty strong.
It's definitely
At least
fine.
with these two leads, I think they're
The,
well
um,
together.
Well, and it was weird. I like looked up the mom. She's like been in nothing. Like she's. I mean,
she's
I,
like
I,
I think she's the best actor in the movie.
Well, and yeah, I was gonna say like I hate to like venture a guess how old she is. She's probably like 40s ish, maybe like late 30s.
yeah,
I don't
40s.
know. But she's been in like very very few things. Like she didn't even start acting until like 2012 according to IMDb. So
Huh.
yeah, it's sort of strange. Like because yeah, she is pretty good in this and genuinely
she's
kind of
40?
comes out of nowhere.
Do you think she looks the same age as me? Is that... Oh, fuck, man.
I don't know. I mean,
Joe, in order to ascertain this, I'm gonna have to see you from behind in the shower.
Yes, we need to see your butt in the shower.
Oh, like
There-
you guys
that-
haven't seen those pictures.
So, all right, like
Let's talk about
let's
it.
just get it on the table. Why do you think there was so many shots of the mom taking a shower?
I don't. It was all right. I don't know. That's kind of.
But like, what? Like, this is one of the things of this movie. Same with the kid running. Like, why is he running all the time?
there's also a
no
scene.
point where he has to run.
They also like
Yeah.
force a scene where he has to burst into the bathroom and sees her naked.
Yeah, with like just
Well, because like we talked about this, I get the thing that they're doing with the shower, with the hot water heater and the pilot light and stuff like that. But when you do it 3 or 4 times, it starts to feel a little Stevie.
well,
And
and,
then
you give the
same with-
long shot to like show her like naked
Yes.
butt, like for no
I
reason.
kind of feel like some of that is set up that. Let me step back. Like I think they're giving the impression that like potentially someone is watching her. Like that's what I got out of it. Like I
Right,
didn't
right,
really
right.
take it as like creepy.
Yeah.
Let's just show this woman's ass. Like,
Yeah, I mean, honestly didn't think any of it was gratuitous either. It's like
Yeah.
it's just that like none of the scenes are shot gratuitously. I don't think. It's just that it happens multiple times, and so eventually you just start noticing it, and you're like, what the fuck's going on here?
But most of her shower shots, and they're plenty effective for what they're going for with that gag, are from like here up in the shower. You see her wet hair, makes sense, and then but before that, boom, mom butt.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't have any. I don't know. Is it that big a deal to show her butt? I don't like. It
I'm
wasn't
not
like
saying I
It's
didn't
more
like her,
just like,
but
what's
it's
the
fine.
point? Yeah.
mom butts are butts too.
it
man.
makes her vulnerable, John.
But the other thing,
It's-
like you
yeah.
were talking about with the kid running, they made a big deal about this kid running and how fast he is and how it might get him scholarships and crap like that. And he's doing this mile so fast, and he goes out and he runs till he pukes when he's stressed out and shit like that. So you'd think at some point, whoever's in the basement and whatever's happening, there's going to be an epic fucking foot race.
No, no.
Oh, I
But
didn't
no.
even think about that. I mean, what it really does is it's a convenient plot way to get him out of the house at certain points and to separate him from the mom, basically. Like, otherwise, he's just a teenager without a car in a place he doesn't know. So, like, there are moments when you need him out of the house.
But he only runs for 5 minutes at a time, as established
Yeah.
by his mile, and
Oh.
he makes the mom go and time him while he's running, which is when she smokes her cigarettes. By the way,
Yes.
I thought it was amusing.
Fuck. She graduated from high school in 1999. She's
Wow.
younger than I am.
The
Ah.
mom did.
Yeah.
Oh,
Welcome
there you
to
go.
my
late
world.
30s. All right,
Do you
nice.
do you have a problem with the way she looked, Joe? I thought she looked great.
I thought she looked a little older than me. I'm
Okay.
not saying that as an insult or anything. I felt like I was younger.
Joe,
but
not
apparently-
Are
everybody-
you saying she looks my age?
Yeah, yeah, you.
Joe, not everybody can drink from the fountain of youth like you, okay?
You know what this is completely off topic, but you know what I found out on my birthday, my 40th birthday, I was watching Three Amigos, and El Guapo in that movie is also supposed to be celebrating his 40th birthday.
Oh, I am definitely going to start calling you El Guapo.
I was watching it, I'm like, is he supposed to be my age?
You know, Joe, you work with young people, so you just have a young people air about you, you know?
Oh, it's fucking depressing.
Not at 40. He's gonna have that old people air about him for sure.
You know,
Oh,
what,
yeah,
you know what, Joe?
definitely.
You have your health, though, you know?
So far.
I'm actually not kidding because I don't, and it's the worst. So there you go.
And again, like we're going way off topic, but I woke up on my 40th birthday. My back has been killing me, and I have not been able to stand up straight since then. Like everything's falling apart.
So let's talk about the last half an hour of this movie, because we're gonna, I guess, maybe spoil this a little bit, because
I think you
yeah.
mean like the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, no, but well, how does the last half an hour start ramping up? I guess is my question. They get in a fight. I thought that
They
was.
get in
I thought the
It's
fight.
really when they sorry. Like
No, I
when
was
they
gonna
come home and they find like the weird shit going on in the house. Like that's
Right.
when things start.
There's
to
eventually
actually-
the tension boils over, and she kind of accuses him of moving her phone around, and they have this really intense fight that I actually thought
No,
was
well,
like
she accuses him of turning the pilot light off
Yeah.
because they find the phone in the
she
basement.
she accused him of
Yeah.
messing with her, and it's like this was a moment to me in a movie that had I actually thought some interesting character stuff. This moment of them fighting was like really intense, and it's like this thing where they're mad at each other and they both say really hurtful things. But then, like, especially with the mom, you can see this instant regret when she's mean to him. Like, she says something to him nasty about the father, and then he's like, I fucking hate you. I wish it was... That was brutal. When he said, I
Yeah.
fucking hate you. I wish it was you. And I was like, oh, bro. Oh, my God.
Yeah, it was a bit much.
As a parent, you're just like, oh, God.
Side note,
Yeah.
did you notice like how like lackadays they were about like shit going on in the house and just like wandering around trying to find it? Like
Yeah.
What
like
do you-
they know the house has been broken in, and they both just kind of like wander in, and she's like, "Yeah, go ahead, go see if you can find anyone."
Yeah,
in there.
yeah,
Like, and
yeah.
they're like, maybe we should call the cops. And then even
Well-
like stuff was moved around, and they thought they heard something down in the basement. She's like, "Well, why don't you go down there and take a look?"
yeah. There's a time when she goes down there, too, even after, like, she's pretty sure there's something going on.
Yeah, they're very much just like, well,
Yeah.
what do you do?
So, like,
And
so...
did they explain? Was there no lights? Like, because they kept going down there, but then they, they would
There
have
was
to
a
like.
light when they first got there, and that kid walked in to look down the basement. There was a light. I swear.
Yeah.
So they get
Yeah.
they get in a fight. They kind of aren't talking to each other. There's another open house. When they get back, they find some weird shit going on where like a table is made, like dinner's happening, and there's candles lit.
Yeah.
So they call the cops. The cops come over. They're like, we can't really do anything. They leave. Then the kid actually calls over the store clerk who's been hitting on the mom, and up until this point has been like a source of anger for the kid because his dad just died, and the clerk is clearly like trying to.
He's like, you can work it on my mom, but
Yeah.
you need to make sure we don't get murdered.
Yeah.
in
He's
this
trying to
house."
sidle up to the mom. So the kid's like, you know what? Kid feels bad for yelling at his mom. He calls the guy up, asks him to come over, and the guy comes over, helps him kind of walk the grounds of the house, make sure nobody's there, and then they ask him to stay. So he agrees to stay. Now, mind you, this is like an hour and a half, hour and 40-minute movie. This is like we're getting to 15 minutes left, maybe at this point.
Yeah.
He sleeps over, and naturally, as you might have guessed by this point, they wake up in the middle of the night. Dude is murked. He's outside in a running car with his throat cut, and then
Am-
out of nowhere, dude jumps out, knocks the kid out. This is the first time I think we've really seen like a. We may have seen him
Well-
stalking through the house earlier.
No, well, and they show his shoes at the first open house that he's like walking in the
Oh,
door.
okay, I didn't really pick
There's
that
also
up.
Yeah.
there's the silhouette of him when his glasses are kind of like disappearing. Like they
Yes.
show his silhouette like in the closet or whatever.
So he does what I think is like one of the most baller things I've ever seen a murderer do in a
It was
movie,
pretty good.
which is knock a dude the fuck out, and it's freezing outside because it's winter, and then he just pours water all over him and just leaves him there and walks away.
Yeah.
So it's baller if from like a torturing him.
That's what I'm
standpoint.
saying. It's
If
insane.
you wanted to like actually murder him, like it's a
Well, no, but he's not.
super
He's
good
not
way to
trying.
do it.
He's not trying to murder him, and that's kind of what we realize by the end is that he likes to mess with people. Because if he was just trying to murder them, then what's the point in turning the pilot light off and moving the phone. Like he
Yeah.
clearly his whole game is just fucking with people for the enjoyment.
Well, and
of
this
it.
is where this movie to me, this like especially the last whatever 15 minutes, it gets like kind of tortury.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I
yeah.
said.
Breaks
Like
the mom's fingers. Like,
Yeah, it's like weird though. Like the tone of this movie is just all.
Well, that's the
effing
pro-
over the
it
place.
takes a
That's-
hard turn for sure.
it takes a real hard
As soon
turn.
as they come back to the house and they find the table set up in the house and there's a phone there, and then the guy ends up calling them on the phone and breathing heavy or whatever, that's kind of what didn't sit well with me for the end of this movie, because the motive is not the same as what we see from this guy in the first half of the movie. He sneaks in, he does little things to fuck with them. That's fine. There's no ramp up to the shit that he's pulling on them to try and scare them and fuck with them until all of a sudden they come in and there's the good china's out on the table and there's a phone.
Yeah,
and
like
then all of a sudden, boom, here we go.
I think that he needed to be a presence. The murderer needed to be more of a presence earlier, and I also think that I don't know. There needed to be a little more second act acceleration at some point. I will totally agree with that. I mean, it's like it's almost this low key human drama for 80 minutes, and then literally turns into like torture porn. Like then he's the mother's sleeping, and he just sidles up into bed next to her, and he's just hanging out next to her in bed.
Which was one of the
It was-
creepier moments.
yeah,
for sure.
super weird.
That
I
one
sh-
was good.
I just thought that was really well done. Yeah, and then she discovers him. He knocks her out, right, or something, and then
Yeah.
at that point the son wakes up like shivering and frozen with ice. So he's been out for like a while. And I'm trying to think of like what happens next. I mean, we're kind of just
he,
in.
he brings the mom downstairs, and like that's where, like, to Casey's point, it's like a big jump between like messing with someone and moving their glasses to like breaking the mom's fingers one by one.
Oh,
Yeah.
the fingers. That was the moment where I was like, that moment felt not from this movie.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
That's the biggest problem. And for some reason, and I know like the classic horror rules, stuff like that, don't show your monster. It doesn't sit well with me that we never got to see this guy's face or anything like that. So it makes it feel even more distant, I think. I don't know. It makes it feel more disjointed for the tone that they set up in the second half of the movie. Whereas if they would have, with especially as much as they tried to show us everybody else in town and how goofy and kooky they are, and it could be one of them, this movie would have been a lot more effective if it was one of them, I think.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that didn't actually bother me, because at the end, and it's a little bit of a cheap effect at the end. Like, I guess we're spoiling it, but we're well beyond that at this point. Like,
If you don't want to
they-
know the exact ending of the movie, you should flip ahead like 10 minutes.
like they jump to a scene of another open house and this truck just driving up. So pretty much you get the impression that this is just some guy that drives around looking for open houses and picking families to F with. So
Well, but
in that
also,
respect, I was kind of like, well, that's fine. I don't need to see his face if it's just some like random, whack job.
I kind of
He's
yeah.
the new slasher
Here's the
killer.
thing. So one, both of these people get murdered, which is kind of batshit crazy when you
Yeah.
spend an entire movie essentially going through like a real character arc with the two of them and like interesting character writing, and then to have them both murdered. And I feel like it's an attempt to make it super twisty at the end. And then you find out, like Joe said, yeah, like he's just a thrill killer basically.
And I mean, not even that. Like, the son actually murders the mother by accident, which I think is a little bit more.
God,
like
that scene is brutal.
She might have been done for at that point either way.
That scene
Yeah,
is-
she wasn't going to be around much longer.
That scene
was
is
she at this
completely
point?
brutal.
I thought just her fingers had been broken.
Like I
Yeah,
actually,
but he had drug her down to the basement. There was,
Eh,
I don't think he would. I mean, it seemed pretty apparent he wasn't going to leave anybody leave at that point.
I just think like this movie gets mean spirited in a really weird way that
Yeah.
feels at odds with the tone of the rest of the movie.
Yeah,
I don't
it does,
know.
especially like what you're talking about. Though it didn't work for me with the pacing and stuff, but like the stuff that you got into with the chemistry, the mom and the son, and how it's they're making it clear that that there's some animosity there, and the whole scene about him telling her to fuck off, and he wished that it was her that died, and things like that. It's still kind of tender moments going throughout this movie, even if it is a horror movie, to where all of a sudden then we get into these tortury things. As soon as he starts breaking fingers, it's like, oh, what the fuck
Yeah,
is this?
I find it hard
Yeah.
to believe that the same person wrote these scenes in which they were clearly interested in exploring this grief, and then I find it hard to believe the same person wrote the finger cracking scene or the fact that the kid killed his
Yeah.
mother. The kid kills his mother after we spend the whole movie exploring their relationship, and it's like, the fuck, like it's a little. I mean, I will say it was shocking. I certainly wasn't
Yeah.
expecting that by the time it was over, but it's like, it. I'm not saying a movie can't be that kind of nasty and mean, but it just doesn't feel internally consistent.
Look at like The Strangers in
Sure.
comparison, because they're very similar movies. And The Strangers, they are violent and brutal and rough, but they're like that from the beginning because we
Well-
don't see their faces either, and they are there for fear and to instill fear, so you expect that kind of behavior.
It's a great example because in The Strangers there are no red herrings. Those are just the killers in The Strangers might as well be Jaws, right? They're like
Right.
they are a dangerous entity and they're trying to get to you, and the entire movie is about the fear of what are they going to do when they get to you. And so then at the end of that movie, that's what you want to see, or that's what you expect because it's what it's about.
Yeah, and if they would have changed up how they finished off the last 10 minutes of this movie with some more subtlety on how he did it, and maybe more from the shadows, maybe not doing suplexes on the kid in the kitchen floor and shit like that, it might have worked a little better.
Yeah, it was just very strange. It was weird.
Strangers.
It was definitely shocking. It was definitely shocking, and I do think that some of these images from the end of the movie are like pretty memorable. Like the kid, I don't know. It's just pretty wild.
I mean, to me, they could have. The biggest thing was in this. This is like an understatement. Was the pacing, right? It's just like
the pacing's off for sure.
just figure out a way to spread some. Well, the other thing that's a little odd is, and we mentioned it, the store clerk who's coming by to get with the mom. Like the only reason he's really around is so that the body count can be 3 instead of just 2.
Sure.
So like, why not just have the neighbor show up and like have a little sequence where she's like,
she should have she should have stumbled in like murdered at some. But the whole thing is that the open house thing, and that only would have worked if she had somehow wandered back over to the house, which happened, I guess. So it was set up, but
she was just wandering around the woods while the kid's running around. So.
No, I love that. That like,
Jesus.
I can't like picture like what movie that reminded me of, but it was like comical. It was just like
Yeah, it's so bizarre.
And you know what else bothered me with this movie? This guy, okay, open houses are weird. You got strangers in your house. Somebody could hide out in there. That was a big fucking house. He was hiding out. So why not turn it into one of those movies where we get to see kind of how he's been hiding in the walls and stuff like that? As far as we know from the way they frame this movie, if you walk down the stairs and turn left, you get to the water heater. If you turn right, there's a doorway that we never see inside of.
Well,
was that a doorway or was like a pile of like?
I was gonna say, I thought it was just like a pile of garbage, and
I thought it was a doorway.
There were like
I thought
multiple
it was like
turns too. It
like
made no
this
sense.
tunnel that like connected the other house, like the next door neighbor. Like again, like I think somebody mentioned like their, this cult idea. Like
Yeah.
I was like racking my brain watching this. Like I think I was giving this movie like way too much like cool shit that could have been going on, and then at the end you're kind of like, oh, it's just some guy who likes open houses. Okay.
Who doesn't love a good open house? You get some cookies, some potpourri going.
They are nice. Like we used to go to them without even
some
like
nice like cinnamon air diffuser situation. Cover up the poop smell.
Those cookies are money.
You ever go to like a really sad opening house where the house is just a piece of shit and you could tell that there's nothing the realtor could do, and they're just sitting there in a chair all sad like, this is it?
They're the war. We had this one that we looked at when we finally settled on the house that we're in. Like this old, like weird, gaudy, like they had like this rusty pool in the backyard, and we walk in and we're like, why the fuck did you even bring us here? But then like the owners are there, so you have to pretend like you actually give a shit.
This is great.
There was like a sauna in the basement and like weird like disco lights. Like there was definitely orgies that had happened at that house like 30 years ago. Like that's a cool story, right?
Yeah, well, that's why you never want to be there. To Eric's point earlier, like we were never around when people were looking at our apartment, and it is just like super awkward if someone's actually around. Well, because you want to comment on it. So yeah,
you want to go through their stuff.
Well, obviously,
you got to take some panties.
We saw an apartment one time. I don't know if you guys have ever had the experience where you go to see a place and there's like pets around. And we saw a place one time where the cat was just like following us around the whole time. It was actually kind of amusing. And
then you took the cat.
Housing
and
sucks.
now we have 2 cats here at our apartment.
And now Mr. Whiskers lives with us.
All right, guys. That's going to do it for this movie. Would you recommend it, Joe?
No, I wouldn't.
John?
I'm going to go no as well.
Casey?
No.
You know what? I'll be the dissenting voice. I will say if you can appreciate a good slow burn and you're just trying to burn time and you got Netflix, like, you know, could do worse. You just got to be ready for like what you get into. That's all.
Again, right on the box cover. You could do worse.
Yeah, you could. We've at least 2 worse movies this year already. So there you go.
The Shape of Water wasn't that bad.
I would say we can refrain from putting this on my list, Joe.
All right.
All right. Let's take a quick break and do some fan mail.
Every legend is based on fact. Every myth is grounded in truth. For 17 years, the town of Haddonfield, Illinois, has been haunted by a night when evil roamed the streets and a madman ruled the night. Everyone knows his name. Now, everyone will know the truth.
I knew what he was, but I never knew why.
Halloween 6, the origin of Michael Myers.
Hey, this is Brian O'Halloran. You might know me from such films as Clerks, Clerks 2, Brutal Massacre. You're listening to BloodyGoodHorror.com.
Send your emails to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or hit us up on Twitter at BGHorror with the hashtag AskBGH. And don't forget to pick up back episodes of the show at podcast.bloodygoodhorror.com.
And we are back. Halloween 6, the best Halloween sequel. Maybe not the best. It's one of my favorite, though.
Is that the Paul Rudd team?
You bet your ass it is.
Nice. That
We
is a
got-
good one.
info@bloodygoodhorror.com. One email this week. The subject line reads, "Oh, that Joe."
Oh, no.
I know that guy.
From Wesley. Wesley says,
Wesley.
a couple of episodes ago, Cece was sharing about how when she was a kid, she collected cicada skins in a jar. Then Joe kept repeating cicada skins over and over. All I could think about was going to my local TGI Fridays and ordering a cold beer and an appetizer of bacon cheddar cicada skins. Thanks so much for continuing to put out such a great show, Wes. I wanted to give Cece the benefit of the doubt, and then I Googled cicada skins. Cicadas are disgusting.
Oh, it's awful. Yeah,
Oh
we
my
get them around
God.
here. Like, I'll see them on the sidewalks. But
They're a
actually,
night-
Erica.
They're a nightmare.
Erica from the Night of Living podcast, or formerly, she came to Cece's defense on the tweets the other day. So
And her point was that they were good? Like what?
like I don't know, like I guess it's a fun like summertime activity to like collect dead bug skins. I don't know. We had squirt guns when I was a kid. Maybe
Yeah.
Well, to be fair,
We had
her-
the laser tag guns. You guys ever play laser tag guns?
Yeah.
to be fair, Joe, her family was making furniture out of real human skin, so that
That's
was just
true,
like
yeah,
a
so
diversion.
I guess-
You know?
in the big scheme of things, cicada skins are pretty low on the creepy.
Oh, Christ.
That's how you break them in. Yeah. I have another email that somebody sent me. I kind of want to read it and make fun of them, but I'm going to be nice today, so I won't. info@bloodygoodhorror.com. What's on Twitter?
The tweets. We got two hashtags as we do every week. The first, BGH Classics. These are from folks who are listening to classic episodes of Bloody Good Horror, which you can do by becoming a patron at patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror. The first one comes from Library of Congress. He's now going under the name Thor's Hour of Thunder podcast. So check that out. But episode 237, we have this is a multi-layered quote. Joe says 5% ABV, so it's not really going to put you under the table if you have 6 or 7 of them, which you'll probably want to. Eric says, that's a lot of beers, Joe. Joe says, well, yeah, times are tough with the recession going on. And then apparently I said, I don't even know what that means. Zinger!
I'll agree with you. It doesn't make sense either.
It's that old Joe John repartee you all come here for every week.
That's awesome. That's the only reason why I show up anymore.
Will they? Won't they?
Yeah. It's like the Ross and Rachel of our time.
Another one from Library of Congress. This is from episode 129, Candyman. This is just a solo quote from me. I just said, Candyman. Kids love that fucking Blue's Clues.
It's true.
I don't even think I had kids when that episode happened.
I forgot we
reviewed.
I forgot we reviewed Candyman. You know what? Candyman is an amazing movie.
Yeah,
and if you haven't,
you don't need to have kids to know that they fucking love that movie.
If you haven't seen it, you should go correct that right now because it's one of the all-time best horror movies.
Oh yeah. Well, I think we covered it. There was just a time where we were grabbing up some classics that we hadn't seen in a little while. So I think that was it. This is a good one. Skizbot, Skylar, he says, this is Joe regarding Taylor Swift. She's definitely got like white trash face. Oh, she belongs in a trailer court. I don't even know what a trailer court means.
That sounds.
I stand by that.
That sounds exactly like something an early Joe would say.
Yeah, well, that was probably like a week ago. I stand by that statement.
John, did you just say you don't know what a trailer court is?
What? No, I don't think so. What's a trailer court?
Ever been to the trailer park? The trailer court?
Like a mobile home park?
It's another word for a trailer park, yeah.
Oh, all right. Yeah, I just never heard it called that. Episode 230.
Of course you haven't. You've never been around
episode
one.
230. All right. And so Skylar has 2 other ones here. They are from some deep cuts. So first one from episode 12. This is Eric quote regarding the Meet the Spartans trailer. This is back when we used to talk about just like random ass trailers.
We still do that.
And Eric went on used to go on pretty hardcore rants. So here the quote is, and if you want to see this, fuck you also. And please stop listening to our podcast because you're dead to me.
To be fair, there was a stretch of a couple of years where those Seltzer Friedberg movies were coming out like a hot clip. And it was maddening.
No, and I stand by your comment. It's a fair comment. The second one, that
was back when I really cared. Like now I'm just having fun on the show, but in the beginning I really cared about what we were doing.
Oh, yeah. It's been obvious you have not cared for a while.
But I just mean, I cared about movie things in a way that only an idiot in his mid-20s can care about that kind of thing. Whereas now I just have like more perspective on it. It's like, fucking, I don't care, man. If you want to watch Meet the Spartans, if that's what you want to do with your life, like you go ahead and you do it.
Yeah. It's that young angst of like
that's
getting pissed about remakes and like
you gotta be pure, like movie pure.
Yeah. So here we go. The last one, and this is an episode 6 deep cut.
Oh my gosh!
It contains.
Please tell me you're screening these before you read them.
This one's on the line for sure. You will get but I think it's actually good flavor for how far we've come. It's a Casey Mark give and take. Okay. So I think
that's fine. Go for
it. Eric's like, yeah, I did. So Casey says, when can we get a BGH thong with my face on it? So that's the start. And Mark says, I don't think the world is prepared for that. Imagine you're hooking up with a chick for the first time and you pull her pants down and there's Casey's mug just staring straight back at you.
Hi.
Yeah, I read this earlier. I think that's fine.
Yeah. No, and this is again that classic early bloody guitar give and take. So
hey, I don't get a whole lot of BGH classic mentions, so I'm happy that when I do, it has to do about my face being on a woman's thong.
There you go. All right.
That was from the old.
That was it's
yeah. I'm not picky.
2018.
That was from the old Cafe Press days.
So
Zazzle.
It might have been Zazzle actually.
Zazzle.
We did there was a Zazzle period. Just a couple quick Ask BGHs this week. So if anyone's on the live stream, hit us up. We can sneak in.
I love Ask BGH.
Dead Air Jeff says, another one of my favorite things from Bloody Good Horror's 2017 year-ender show is Mark randomly singing the 3-liter bottle of Mountain Dew line from the Danzig shopping list in the background during the discussion of Get Out.
Mark, like when Mark likes a comedy thing, be it like an SNL sketch or like a viral video, he will commit it to like uncanny memory and never forget it. Like you name a random SNL sketch he liked, and he will reenact the entire thing for you right now.
All right, there's actually just 2 more, both from Skizbot. So I don't know if people just didn't see Open House or because we snuck it in on a Monday. Maybe people weren't ready for it. But the first one, he says, "Does anyone else get very, very annoyed when people talk through the previews before a movie?"
Yeah, I do.
A little bit.
To me, that's the point at which the movie starts, and like you need to be quiet. I'm okay with like
Yeah.
my least favorite, and I've definitely had this a few times in the history of the show, is like, and it's usually an older couple. And it's like one of them feels the need to lean over and give a review after every trailer, like that doesn't look good, or like I don't get it, like just like. But they always wait till it gets quiet before they start talking. I hate that.
I'm definitely that person though. I can't like in my head. I'm like I have to tell Leslie that I don't want to see that movie.
Yeah, I'm that guy too. I got to make some kind of comment if it's really bad.
I try and do it very quietly though.
I'm okay with it, but I will tolerate it. But
quiet.
It is annoying.
If it's like semi-respectful, it's like okay, I guess. But
yeah.
Well, and I was gonna say I'm also one. I'm the type of person that I find it hard if I'm with another person at a movie to not comment on a trailer. I wait till the trailer is over and then I comment.
I've really found too that since I just started exclusively going to movies on like Saturday, Sunday mornings, audience is literally almost never a problem.
It depends because you do get the elders in those showings sometimes, and those guys just do not give a fuck. Like they will talk through the whole thing.
Yeah, I don't really run into that much anymore. I used to have a lot more issues like when I would go late afternoon, like nighttime.
Well, you're also in Boston, and they shoot their elders.
My worst experience. That's true. My worst experience ever was it was either the Friday the 13th remake when the dude in the theater sat directly next to me in the empty theater, or like I went to see the I remake starring Jessica Alba like opening night on a Friday, and it was so 2 things. It was the night that Sex and the City opened, the first movie, and so I couldn't find a friggin' parking spot because that thing was packed, and then my theater was packed with like 13-year-olds because it was PG-13. And that was one of the worst theater experiences I've ever had.
Good
awful.
Times.
Terrible. So many people saw that Sex and the City movie, John. You have no idea.
I still have not. Yeah. I did see the headlines on that one. Skylar asks, while listening to very old episodes, it was fun. This actually isn't it is a question. It was fun hearing how pumped everyone was to see Cloverfield. What's the most excited you've been to see a movie, and did it live up to the expectations?
I was very pumped for Cloverfield. I was very excited for Cabin in the Woods.
Mm-hmm.
The Witch.
I remember being really pumped for the Friday the 13th remake. Like, I took the day off from work and watched like all the older ones before, like, and then I saw it and I'm like, yeah, fuck.
I remember you saying at the time that you were mad because you had the Jason tattoo.
Oh, that was like one of my first. I think it may have been the first thing I wrote for the site was like a blog when we still did those about how I hope this movie doesn't fuck up my tattoo.
I was really excited for Paranormal Activity because that was like there was a lot of buzz gathering for that, and like it took a few weeks before we could all see it before it like fully went wide, and they had this really great kind of viral marketing campaign going. I was like pumped for that.
I was gonna say I think we were all really pumped for The Dark Knight because didn't we record an episode like, or maybe no, you know what? I think I wrote a review for the site after seeing a midnight screening of it. I remember being up super duper late after seeing The Dark Knight, and I was super pumped to see that.
That was like the first time I remember doing an episode on something and getting shit from people because it wasn't a horror movie.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but we were really pumped for it.
Yeah.
And it lived up to the expectations.
Screw you! I do what I want.
Yeah.
That night was dark. I'll tell you what I am excited for. I check on this movie constantly. It's Guillermo del Toro's The Haunted Mansion movie. which still I don't think is anywhere close to being made. But like,
Yeah.
I have been excited about that for like 8 or 9 years.
It turns out when you have a sleeve tattoo of a film, you have to be pumped for when it gets made.
Maybe if you get lucky, Joe, that's his second passion project after The Shape of Water.
Apparently, he's a big fan.
It's gonna be really weird. It's gonna be really weird when the merman has a wiener.
Merman.
We picked up one, I don't know. So Megan, Third Breath, just sent in a question. So I don't know if she's watching on the live stream or what, but hello, Megan.
Hi, Megan.
She says, this is a good question. Open House was filmed in my wife's hometown. What's your fave hometown/state horror movie?
Chud. New York City.
Chud. Yo, don't even try to be claiming New York City.
There are no.
right?
Or actually, didn't we do a movie recently that was like supposed to be set in like quote unquote upstate New York, even though it was more.
Yeah, Super Dark Times.
Okay,
yeah. Isn't it?
I'll use that. I'll use that then, even though it was like central New York or something.
There was and
I'm taking
the name of
then,
it,
by the way.
but there was actually a horror movie filmed in that tuberculosis center where, like, by where we grew up, Eric.
Oh,
I'm sure
yeah.
you remember
Session
this.
9?
No, it was like some shitty like.
No, Session 9 was in Massachusetts. It actually
Guys.
the Danvers.
Are you not going to go with Poughkeepsie tapes? That's
Ooh.
like.
First
you
of all,
know,
I wouldn't really call that the same thing, but sure, John.
it's come on. You're claiming New York City. You got to take Poughkeepsie with
All
it.
right, fine.
That's how it works.
Excellent.
Nobody wants to take to Poughkeepsie, even people that live there.
Yeah, I don't know of any movies filmed in my actual hometown where I grew up. There probably have been.
Well,
I mean,
John, to
there's
be
definitely
fair,
movies filmed
like,
about horror.
10 miles away, you have people eating actual horse shit off the ground. So I mean, that's kind of.
In any event, I'm going with Chud because Eric called it. It's a good one. So
Chud,
About the closest I can get is Erie, Indiana, and
oh, nice,
Stranger Things because they took place in Indiana.
dude. Those are great picks.
Oh yeah, but not my hometown. My hometown was dull.
I loved Erie, Indiana, and I'm like afraid to go back to it because I feel like it's probably just one of those things that.
Yeah, me
you'd be
too.
Like what?
All right.
Is that
Good
it?
times.
Is that it, John?
that was all their questions.
We almost went 90 minutes on this movie, John. You didn't think we could do it?
Wow.
Look at us now. Oh, we're doing The Ritual next week. We should.
Sure. That's
Oh,
on.
yeah.
That's
Very
on.
pumped.
That's on Netflix or something.
It
Yes.
is. It is on Netflix. Yes.
Dope. I love Netflix movies because I can lay on my couch while I watch them.
Oh, I like to picture you
Yes.
while I watch.
Nice.
Info at
It's a good
bloodygoodhorror.com is the email address. We're also on Twitter at BGHorror. If you're a patron, make sure you're in that Slack, y'all. Hanging out with the BGH crew and commenting
It's a
on
good
things and
time.
Doing
I
gifts,
just sent out a couple invites tonight, actually.
doing
so.
gifts and emojis and stuff. It's a lot of fun.
Yep.
2 gifts, 1 cup.
I'm always amazed.
Video games, dogs and babies.
I'm always amazed by, like, we get stats every week, and there's always this stat that's like, oh, 15% of messages were sent private messages, and I'm like, who's like slipping into whose DMs here that you guys are like, I just have all these like, my imagination goes wild. But like, who is DMing each other? And what are they talking about?
It's more than that. It's a
Don't worry
really
about
high
it.
percentage is DMs.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
To be
Yeah, but
fair, I send a lot of dick pics. So I got it.
It's a perk. It's a Patreon perk.
It's like
Yeah.
a weekly thing.
Joe makes sure I get my picture every morning when I
Joe,
have my coffee.
Joe had to quit his job because he couldn't keep up with all the dick pics.
But to be fair, like, they're not sexual in nature at all. It's mostly like, does this look normal to you?
Yeah, you look a little cold this morning, Joe.
Please help.
I just, for a while, I felt like your heart wasn't really into it, Joe. I'll admit it.
There it is. I don't know, whatever.
You need to try out some new lighting schemes. All right,
Maybe some
guys.
costumes.
Open house. It's gonna do it. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll talk to you next week.
God, I have coworkers.
See yous.
All right. Oh, bye.
Bye bye.